Commander Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the GSS Perseverance and watched the stars slip past the viewport. Behind her, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. The ship hummed with the familiar sounds of faster-than-light travel. In 2 hours, they would drop out of hyperspace and face whatever waited for them at Kepler Station. The mission briefing had been short and grim. Kepler Station, a mining outpost on the edge of Galactic Union space, had gone silent 3 days ago. The last transmission spoke of unknown vessels approaching. Then nothing. The Union had sent the Perseverance because it was closest. They had also sent it because Commander Chen had a reputation. She was not the most decorated officer in the fleet. She was not the most experienced, but she was known for one thing that set her apart from every other commander in the Galactic Union. She found solutions where others saw only problems. The door behind her opened with a soft hiss. Lieutenant Vex stepped onto the observation deck. Vex was a Korathi, a tall reptilian species with scales the color of deep ocean water. He had served under Chen for 3 years now. "Commander," Vex said, "the crew is ready, but I must tell you there is concern." "There is always concern before a mission," Chen said without turning from the stars. "This is different," Vex said. He moved to stand beside her, his clawed hands clasped behind his back. "The sensor readings from the last transmission showed energy signatures we have never seen before. Some of the crew believe we are walking into a trap." Chen finally turned to look at her first officer. In the low light of the observation deck, his eyes glowed faintly yellow. "What do you believe, Lieutenant?" Vex was quiet for a moment. "I believe that you will find a way to complete our mission. You always do." Chen smiled slightly. "Your faith is touching, but even I cannot promise miracles." "I do not believe in miracles," Vex said. "I believe in your tactical creativity. The Korathi have a saying. When the path is blocked, the clever warrior builds a new path. You have built many new paths in your time, Commander." Chen thought about the missions they had shared. The siege of Norin Prime, where they had used asteroid debris to create a shield against enemy fire. The rescue at Thyra Colony, where she had ordered the ship's engines reversed to create a shockwave that disabled the attacking vessels. The standoff at the Varan Nebula, where she had hidden their ship in a gas cloud and waited 3 days for the perfect moment to strike. Each time the odds had been against them. Each time she had found something others had missed, a pattern, a weakness, a creative solution that turned defeat into victory. But she knew that luck played a part too, and luck always ran out eventually. "Get the crew to battle stations in 1 hour," she said. "I want full sensor sweeps the moment we drop out of hyperspace. And Vex, I want the weapons charged but not armed. We do not know what we are facing yet." Vex nodded and left the observation deck. Chen remained at the viewport a while longer. The stars continued their endless dance across the glass. Somewhere out there, the people of Kepler Station were either dead or waiting for rescue. She intended to find out which. The drop from hyperspace came exactly on schedule. One moment the stars were streaking lines of light. The next, they were fixed points again. The Perseverance hung in the darkness of normal space, sensors reaching out in all directions. "Report," Chen commanded from her captain's chair. "I am detecting Kepler Station," said Ensign Tora, a young human woman at the sensor station. "It appears intact, no significant damage visible." "Life signs." Tora worked her console, her face grew troubled. "I am reading life signs, Commander, but they are strange. They do not match any species in our database." Chen leaned forward. "Show me." The main view screen flickered and displayed a wireframe image of the station. Small dots of light appeared throughout the structure, each one representing a detected life form. They moved in patterns that seemed random at first, but Chen saw something else. "They are searching," she said quietly. "Whatever those things are, they are looking for something." "Commander, I am also detecting 3 vessels in orbit around the station," Tora continued. "Configuration unknown. They do not match any ships in Galactic Union records." Chen studied the display. The 3 ships were larger than the Perseverance, but not by much. They hung motionless in space, positioned in a triangle around the station. "Are they powered up?" she asked. "Minimal power signatures," Tora said. "It looks like they are in some kind of standby mode." Vex turned from his station. "Perhaps they believe there is no threat in this region. They may not expect anyone to respond to the station's distress call." "Or they want us to think that," Chen said. She drummed her fingers on the arm of her chair. "What about our missing colonists? Any human or Union life signs?" Tora shook her head. "I cannot tell. The alien life signs are interfering with our scans. They give off some kind of energy field that makes it hard to detect anything else. Chen sat back in her chair and thought. The standard approach would be to call for reinforcements and wait, but reinforcements were days away. If any colonists were still alive, they might not have days. The aggressive approach would be to attack the alien ships while they were powered down, but that would alert whatever was on the station, and they still did not know what they were dealing with. There had to be another way. Ensign Tara, Chen said slowly, you said the alien life forms give off an energy field. Can you tell me more about that field? Tora studied her readings. It appears to be some kind of biological signature. Their bodies generate a low-level electromagnetic pulse. It is not harmful, but it creates interference with our sensors. Chen's eyes narrowed. If they generate an electromagnetic field, they might be sensitive to electromagnetic changes. What happens if we flood the station with a targeted EMP? Vex turned sharply. Commander, an EMP would disable the station's life support systems. If any colonists are alive, they would suffocate. I know, Chen said. I am not suggesting we actually deploy an EMP. I am wondering what they would do if they thought we were about to. The bridge fell silent as the crew tried to follow her thinking. You want to bluff them, Vex said finally. I want to see how they react, Chen corrected. If they are sensitive to electromagnetic fields, they might panic and reveal themselves, or they might retreat to their ships. Either way, we learn something. She stood from her chair and walked toward the viewscreen. The alien vessels hung in space like sleeping predators. Sometimes, she said, the best way to solve a problem is to create a new one and see who runs from it. Vex made a sound that might have been a laugh in the Korathi language. And so it begins, another new path. Chen turned back to her crew. All right, people, let us see what happens when we shake the tree. The colonists of Kepler Station had woken that morning expecting another routine day of mining rare minerals. They had ended the day as prisoners or worse. Now, a single human commander was going to try to save them with nothing but a ship, a crew, and her own stubborn refusal to accept impossible odds. It was exactly the kind of situation Sarah Chen lived for. The Perseverance moved closer to the station, engines running silent, as Commander Chen began to plan her next move. Whatever these aliens were, they had made one critical mistake. They had attacked a colony under Galactic Union protection. And the Union had sent her. The plan was simple in concept but complex in execution. Chen called a meeting in the ship's tactical room. Her senior officers gathered around the holographic display table as she outlined her idea. We are going to create the appearance of an EMP weapon, she said. One powerful enough to threaten everything on that station. Chief Engineer Rask, a burly man with graying hair, crossed his arms. Commander, we do not have an EMP weapon of that scale. Building one would take weeks. I know, Chen said. We are not going to build one. We are going to make them think we have one. She touched the display, and a schematic of the Perseverance appeared. Our deflector array can be modified to emit a specific frequency. Not strong enough to actually damage anything, but strong enough to register on their sensors if they are monitoring electromagnetic fields. Vex studied the schematic. You want to broadcast a warning shot. Exactly. We pulse the array in a pattern that looks like a charging weapon. If these aliens are as sensitive to EM fields as I suspect, they will react. And when they react, we will learn something about them. Dr. Nira, the ship's medical officer and a member of the telepathic Mindari species, spoke up. Her silver eyes reflected the holographic light. And if they react by attacking us, then we know they are hostile and we respond accordingly, Chen said. But I do not think they will attack right away. If they wanted to destroy the station, they would have done it already. They are looking for something. That means they need the station intact, at least for now. Rask rubbed his chin. I can modify the deflector array in about an hour, but Commander, there is a risk. If we push too much power through the array, we could damage our own systems. Keep it within safe limits, Chen said. We need this ship operational for whatever comes next. The meeting ended and the crew went to their tasks. Chen remained in the tactical room, studying the holographic image of Kepler Station. 3,000 colonists lived there. Miners, engineers, families, children. She thought about the children especially. Her own daughter was about the same age as many of the children on that station. Maya was safe on Earth, living with Chen's mother while her mother served in deep space. But Chen thought about her every day. Every mission, every decision, she asked herself the same question. What would I want someone to do if it was Maya on that station? The answer was always the same. Everything possible, and then everything impossible after that. An hour later, the deflector array was ready. Chen took her position on the bridge and surveyed her crew. They were nervous but focused. They trusted her. She hoped that trust was not misplaced. "Begin the broadcast," she ordered. The Perseverance hummed as the deflector array activated. An invisible wave of electromagnetic energy pulsed outward toward the station. It was weak, barely a whisper in the vast silence of space. But to sensors tuned to detect such things, it would sound like a shout. "Energy pulse away," Tora reported. No immediate response from the alien vessels. Jen waited. Patience was part of tactics too. Rushing led to mistakes. 30 seconds passed, then a minute. "Commander," Tora said suddenly, "I am detecting movement on the station. The alien life signs they are clustering together." "Show me," Chen said. The view screen displayed the station wireframe again. The scattered dots of alien life were moving toward the center of the structure, gathering in one large group. "They felt it," Vex said. "They are grouping for protection." Chen nodded slowly. "Or for communication. They might be deciding how to respond." "What do we do?" Rask asked from his station. "We wait," Chen said, "and we prepare for Phase 2. The waiting was the hardest part. Chen had learned that lesson many times. In battle, action came naturally. But in the moments before battle, when everything hung in the balance, patience tested even the strongest will. The alien vessels remained in standby mode. The creatures on the station stayed clustered together. The Perseverance drifted in the darkness, a single ship against an unknown enemy. Then something changed. "Commander," Tora said, her voice tight, "one of the alien vessels is powering up." Chen sat forward. "Which one?" "The one closest to us. Its engines are activating." On the view screen, one of the triangular ships began to glow with internal light. It shifted position, turning to face the Perseverance. "Weapons?" Chen asked. "I do not detect any weapons charging," Tora said, "but I am picking up a transmission. They are sending a signal." "To us?" "No, to the station." Chen's mind raced. They were communicating with the creatures inside, probably asking about the electromagnetic pulse, probably asking what it meant. "Can you decode the transmission?" she asked. Tora shook her head. "It is in an unknown language. Our translation systems have nothing to compare it to." Vex moved to Chen's side. "We have made them nervous, that is something, but what is our next move?" Chen studied the alien ship on the view screen. It was waiting, just as she was waiting. Two commanders facing each other across the void, each trying to understand the other. "Tora," Chen said, "can we send a transmission to that ship? A simple mathematical pattern, something to show we are intelligent beings trying to communicate." "I can do that," Tora said. "Do it. Send a series of prime numbers. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. If they have any interest in talking, they will recognize the pattern." Tora worked her console. A moment later she nodded. "Transmission sent." The wait that followed felt like hours. Chen gripped the arm of her chair and forced herself to remain calm. Whatever happened next would shape the entire mission. The alien ship flashed with light. "Incoming transmission," Tora reported. "They are responding." "What are they saying?" Tora's fingers flew across her console. It is the same pattern, prime numbers, but they added more. 13, 17, 19, 23. Chen released a breath she had not realized she was holding. They understand. They want to communicate. Vex looked at her with something like wonder in his yellow eyes. "Commander, you just made first contact with an unknown species." "First contact is easy," Chen said. "Understanding each other is the hard part." She stood and walked toward the view screen. The alien ship hung in space, its lights pulsing gently. Inside that ship was a mind, a will, a being that had reasons for being here, for taking the station, for doing whatever it was doing. Chen needed to understand those reasons, because understanding was the key to solving any problem. "Open a channel," she said. "Let us see if we can learn to talk." The next few hours were exhausting. Communication with the alien ship progressed in fits and starts. They exchanged mathematical patterns, then simple images. The universal translator worked overtime, trying to build a basic vocabulary from scratch. Chen learned that the aliens called themselves the Vortak. They were a collective species, linked by the electromagnetic fields their bodies generated. They thought as one, moved as one, acted as one. The concept of individual identity was foreign to them. She also learned why they had come to Kepler Station. "They are looking for something called the Resonance Stone," Dr. Nira said, translating the Vortak's latest message. "They believe it is hidden somewhere on the station. What is a resonant stone? Chen asked. Nira concentrated, her telepathic abilities helping her interpret the alien concepts. It appears to be an ancient artifact. Their records say it was lost long ago. They traced it to this region of space. And they took the station because they think it is there. Yes, they did not intend to harm the colonists, but the colonists resisted and there was conflict. Chen felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. How many colonists are still alive? Nira asked the question. The answer came back slowly, translated through layers of alien thought. 2,000, Nira said. They are being held in the station's cargo bays. The Vortak are keeping them alive as leverage, in case someone came to investigate. Hostages, Vex said grimly. Chen nodded. The situation was clearer now. The Vortak were not mindless monsters. They were a species with a goal, willing to do whatever was necessary to achieve it. That made them dangerous, but it also made them predictable. And predictable enemies could be outmaneuvered. Ask them this, Chen said to Nira. Ask them what they will do if they find the resonant stone. Will they leave peacefully? Will they release the colonists? Nira relayed the question. The response took several minutes. They say yes. If they find the stone, they will leave. The colonists are only useful as protection. Once the stone is found, they have no need for hostages. Chen turned to her officers. Then we help them find it. The room fell silent. Rask stared at her like she had grown a second head. Commander, Vex said carefully, you cannot be serious. I am completely serious, Chen said. We have 2,000 hostages on that station. A direct assault would get most of them killed. Waiting for reinforcements could take too long. But if we help the Vortak find what they are looking for, everyone goes home alive. And if the resonant stone is not on the station? Rask asked. Then we deal with that when we come to it, Chen said. One problem at a time. She looked at each of her officers in turn. She saw doubt, she saw concern, but she also saw trust. This is what I do, she said simply. I find solutions. Sometimes those solutions are not what anyone expects, but they work. Trust me a little longer. Vex was the first to nod. What do you need from us? Chen smiled. I need everything we know about Kepler Station. Every geological survey, every mining report, every strange reading the colonists ever recorded. If there is an ancient artifact hidden on that station, there will be traces. We just need to find them. The search began. Commander Chen was about to prove that the most creative tactical solutions sometimes meant working with your enemy instead of against them. It was a new path indeed. The mining records of Kepler Station filled thousands of data files. Chen divided the work among her crew, assigning each person a section to search. They were looking for anything unusual, strange energy readings, unexplained sensor anomalies, mineral compositions that did not match the surrounding rock. It was tedious work, but Chen knew that answers often hid in boring places. While her crew searched, she continued communicating with the Vortak. Through Dr. Nira's translations, she began to understand them better. The Vortak were ancient. Their collective memory stretched back over 10,000 years. They had once been a great civilization, spreading across dozens of star systems, but a catastrophe had struck them. Their homeworld was destroyed by an enemy they refused to name. The survivors scattered across the galaxy, searching for the artifacts that might help them rebuild. The resonant stone was one of those artifacts. According to their records, it amplified the electromagnetic fields that connected their consciousness. Without it, each Vortak ship operated in isolation, cut off from the great collective they had once been. Chen found herself feeling something unexpected, sympathy. The Vortak had done terrible things to get here. They had attacked a peaceful station, killed some colonists and taken the rest hostage. But they were driven by desperation, not malice. They were a broken people trying to put themselves back together. That did not excuse their actions, but it explained them. On the second day of searching, Ensign Tora found something. Commander, look at this. Chen moved to the sensor station. Tora pointed to a data file from 3 years ago. It was a geological survey of Sector 7, one of the deeper mining areas of the station. The miners found something strange in this sector, Tora said. An energy reading they could not explain. The report says they sealed off the area until scientists could investigate, but the investigation never happened. The funding was cut. Chen studied the data. The energy reading was weak but consistent. It pulsed in a regular pattern, almost like a heartbeat. It could be natural, Vex said, looking over her shoulder. Some kind of geological phenomenon. It could be, Chen agreed. But the pulse rate matches the electromagnetic frequency the vortex generate. That cannot be coincidence. She made her decision quickly. Contact the vortex ship. Tell them we may have found what they are looking for, but also tell them this. We will help them retrieve the artifact, but only if they agree to release half the hostages now as a sign of good faith. Nira relayed the message. The response came back faster than Chen expected. They agree, Nira said. They will release 1,000 colonists immediately. The other 1,000 will be released when the artifact is recovered. Chen allowed herself a small moment of satisfaction. 1,000 lives saved. It was not everyone, but it was a start. Vex, prepare a shuttle to receive the colonists, she ordered. Make sure medical teams are standing by. Some of them may be injured. The next few hours were busy. The vortex brought 1,000 colonists to the station's main docking bay. Chen's shuttle crews worked tirelessly, ferrying them to the Perseverance. The colonists were frightened and confused, but most were unharmed. The vortex had kept their word. Chen interviewed several of the freed colonists, looking for more information about Sector 7. A mining foreman named Marcus proved especially helpful. We always knew there was something strange down there, Marcus said. He was a large man with a scarred face and tired eyes. The equipment acted funny, compasses spun, electronics flickered. The men did not like working in that sector. Did anyone see anything unusual? Chen asked. Marcus hesitated. There were stories. Some of the night shift workers said they saw lights, moving lights deep in the rock, but everyone figured they were just tired, seeing things. Chen nodded. What about the sealed-off area, the one from the geological survey? That was before my time, but I heard about it. They hit something hard, something they couldn't drill through. The surveyor said it wasn't natural rock. He said it was placed there, like a door. A door. Chen filed that information away. She returned to the Perseverance and shared what she had learned with her officers. So there is something down there, Rask said. Something that has been there for a long time. Long enough for rock to grow around it, Chen said. The vortex said the resonant stone was lost thousands of years ago. This station is built on the ruins of an older civilization. No one knew that when they chose this asteroid for mining. Vex looked at the geological surveys spread across the table. How do we get to it? If there is a door, it must be sealed for a reason. We will figure that out when we see it, Chen said. Right now, we need to convince the vortex to let us lead the expedition. This proved more difficult than expected. The vortex wanted to send their own people to retrieve the artifact. They did not trust humans to handle something so precious to them. Chen understood their concern, but she also saw a problem. Their electromagnetic fields will interfere with our equipment, she explained to Nira. If we bring a mixed team into those tunnels, our sensors will be useless. We need to either go with all humans or all vortex. And if we send all vortex, we have no control over the situation, Vex added. Chen nodded. Exactly, we need to find a middle ground. The negotiation took several hours. In the end, Chen proposed a compromise. A small human team would lead the way into Sector 7, using their equipment to navigate. A vortex representative would follow, connected to the collective through a relay on the station's surface. The vortex could observe everything through their representative, but would not interfere with the human team's work. The vortex collective deliberated for a long time. Finally, they agreed. Chen chose her team carefully. She would lead the expedition herself. Vex would serve as her second. Rask would handle any engineering challenges. Dr. Nira would maintain communication with the vortex representative. They boarded a shuttle and flew to Kepler Station. The remaining 1,000 colonists were held in Cargo Bay 3, on the opposite side of the station from Sector 7. Chen saw them briefly on the station's security feeds. They looked scared but healthy. The vortex were keeping their promise, at least for now. The entrance to Sector 7 was a heavy blast door marked with yellow warning stripes. Marcus had given Chen the access codes before they left the Perseverance. She entered them now, and the door groaned open. Beyond was darkness. Lights, Chen ordered. The team activated their helmet lamps. Beams of light cut through the black, revealing a narrow tunnel carved into the asteroid's rock. Mining equipment sat abandoned along the walls, covered in years of dust. This section was sealed 3 years ago, Rask said, checking his scanner. No one has been here since. They moved forward slowly. The tunnel sloped downward, taking them deeper into the asteroid's heart. The air grew cold. Their breath formed clouds in the light. After 20 minutes, Vex held up a hand. Stop, I hear something. They listened. At first, Chen heard nothing. Then slowly she became aware of a sound, a low hum almost below the range of human hearing. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. The energy reading, Rask said, checking his scanner. It is getting stronger, we are close. They continued down the tunnel. The hum grew louder. Chen felt it in her bones now, a vibration that made her teeth ache. Then the tunnel opened into a vast chamber. Chen's light swept across the space and she gasped. The chamber was enormous, carved from the asteroid's core, but it was not natural. The walls were covered in symbols, intricate patterns that seemed to shift in the light, and in the center of the chamber, resting on a pedestal of black stone, was an object. The resonance stone. It was smaller than Chen had expected, maybe the size of her fist. It glowed with a soft blue light, pulsing in time with the hum that filled the chamber. Just looking at it made Chen feel strange, like her thoughts were moving in unfamiliar directions. Dr. Nira stepped forward, her silver eyes wide. "It is alive," she whispered. "Not alive like us, but there is consciousness here, ancient consciousness." The Vortak representative pushed past them, drawn toward the stone like a magnet toward iron. It was a creature of tangled limbs and glowing eyes, barely humanoid in shape. It reached toward the pedestal with trembling appendages. "Wait," Chen said. "We do not know what happens when you touch it." But the Vortak did not listen. Its collective had waited thousands of years for this moment. Nothing would stop it now. The creature touched the stone. Light exploded through the chamber. Chen was thrown backward, slamming into the tunnel wall. She heard shouts from her team, felt the ground shake beneath her. Then, as suddenly as it began, the light faded. Chen blinked spots from her eyes and looked at the Vortak representative. It stood frozen before the pedestal, its body rigid, but something had changed. The creature was glowing now, the same blue light as the stone, and when it spoke, its voice was different, deeper, older. "Human Commander," it said. "The stone has accepted the Vortak claim. We remember now. We remember what we were, what we can be again." Chen struggled to her feet. "What about our agreement, the hostages?" The creature turned to face her. Its eyes held a wisdom that had not been there before. "The agreement stands. Your people will be released. You have done the Vortak a service greater than you can imagine." It paused. "And we will remember this. The collective will remember the human who could have been our enemy but chose to be our ally. When our people rise again, that memory will guide us." Chen felt the weight of those words. She had taken a risk, choosing cooperation over conflict. Now that risk was paying off in ways she had not anticipated. "One more thing," the creature said. "The stone has shown us much, including the location of others who seek what we seek, others who would take it by force." It moved closer to Chen. "They are coming, Human Commander. Others have detected this stone's awakening. They will arrive within days. Your ship, your people, they are in danger." Chen's heart rate spiked, but her voice remained steady. "Can you help us?" The creature considered. "We can, but first we must complete what we started. The hostages will be released. Then we will talk about what comes next." Chen nodded. It was not a perfect answer, but it was enough for now. She turned to her team. "Let us get those colonists home, then we will deal with whatever is coming." They climbed back through the tunnel, leaving the ancient chamber behind. The resonant stone's glow faded as they walked, but its presence remained, humming in the rock like a heartbeat. Commander Chen had solved one problem. Now a bigger one was approaching. But that was her specialty, after all. The remaining 1,000 colonists were released within the hour. Chen watched from the Perseverance's observation deck as shuttles ferried them to safety. 3,000 people saved, all because she had chosen to understand her enemy instead of simply fighting them. But she could not rest. The Vortak warning echoed in her mind. Others were coming. "Commander," Vex said, approaching her position. "The Vortak ship is hailing us. They wish to speak with you directly." Chen followed Vex to the bridge. The main viewscreen showed the lead Vortak vessel, now fully powered and glowing with new energy. The resonant stone had done more than return their collective memory. It had restored power to systems that had been dormant for centuries. The creature that had touched the stone appeared on the screen. It looked different now. Its form had become more defined, more organized. It stood straighter, its eyes burning with purpose. "Human Commander Chen," it said. "I am Vox Prime, voice of the awakened collective. We must speak of the threat that approaches." "Tell me everything," Chen said. Vox Prime's image flickered as it accessed the collective memory. "When the stone was lost, we were not the only ones seeking it. Another race, the Karzul, desired it as well. They believed the stone belonged to them by ancient right." "Who are the Karzul?" Conquerors, destroyers. They sweep across star systems, taking what they want and destroying what they cannot use. When they detect the stones awakening, they will come for it. Chen felt the pieces falling into place, and they will not care about hostages or negotiations. Correct, the Karzul do not negotiate. They overwhelm their enemies with numbers and firepower. They will bring a fleet to this location. How many ships? Vox Prime paused. Based on our records, a standard Karzul response force numbers between 50 and 100 vessels. The bridge fell silent. 100 ships against the Perseverance and 3 Vortac vessels. The math was not encouraging. How long do we have? Chen asked. 2 days, perhaps 3. Their faster-than-light technology is different from ours. We cannot predict exactly when they will arrive. Chen's mind was already racing. 2 days to prepare a defense against an overwhelming force. 2 days to find a solution where none seemed to exist. It was exactly the kind of problem she lived for. Vox Prime, she said, you said the stone restored your memories. Does that include military knowledge, tactics, strategies, weapons? Some, yes, but our ships are still recovering. We cannot fight at full capacity. What about the station? It is a mining facility, but it must have some defensive capabilities. Vox Prime consulted the collective. The station has basic point defense systems, asteroid mining equipment, emergency thrusters for orbital adjustments, nothing that could stand against a Karzul fleet. Chen was quiet for a moment, processing the information. Mining equipment, thrusters, an asteroid full of rock and metal. An idea began to form. Vex, she said slowly, what is the mass of Kepler Station? Vex checked his console. The station itself is approximately 500,000 metric tons. The asteroid it is built on is considerably larger, perhaps 50 million metric tons. Chen smiled. Vox Prime's image flickered with what might have been confusion. Why do you ask about mass, human commander? Because I am thinking about physics, Chen said. The Karzul are bringing 100 ships. That is a lot of firepower, but all that firepower cannot do much against something that is too big to destroy. Vex understood first. His yellow eyes widened. You want to use the asteroid as a weapon. Not as a weapon, as a shield, and as bait. She walked to the tactical display and began pulling up star charts. The Karzul will come through hyperspace and exit near the station. They will expect to find their target sitting still, waiting to be destroyed. But what if the station is not sitting still? What if it is moving toward them at high speed? Rask joined the discussion. The station has emergency thrusters, but they are not meant for maneuvering that much mass. We would need to supplement them somehow. The Vortex ships, Chen said. Vox Prime, can your vessels push the asteroid? Vox Prime considered. With the stone's power restored, yes, our engines could provide the necessary thrust. Good, here is what I am thinking. We move the entire asteroid into a new position. We place it directly in the path the Karzul fleet will have to take. When they exit hyperspace, they will find 50 million metric tons of rock and metal heading straight for them. Tora spoke up from her station. Commander, that will not destroy their fleet. They can simply avoid the asteroid. I know, Chen said. I am not trying to destroy them. I am trying to disrupt them. When they exit hyperspace, they will have to take evasive action. Their formation will scatter, and that is when we hit them. She pointed to different positions on the tactical display. The Perseverance and the Vortex ships will hide behind the asteroid, using its mass to mask our signatures. When the Karzul scatter, we emerge and engage them in small groups. Instead of fighting 100 ships at once, we fight 5 at a time, 10 at a time. Vex studied the display. It is risky. If our timing is wrong, we will be caught in the open. All tactics are risky, Chen said, but this gives us a chance, a real chance. Vox Prime's image stabilized. The collective has considered your proposal, human commander. We believe it could work. We will commit our ships to this plan. Chen nodded. Then let us get started. We have 2 days to move an asteroid. The next 48 hours were the most exhausting of Chen's life. The Vortex ships attached themselves to the asteroid with massive docking clamps. Their engines fired in concert, slowly accelerating the enormous mass. It was like watching a mountain learn to fly. Meanwhile, Chen coordinated the defense preparations. The station's mining lasers were repurposed as weapons. The Perseverance's weapon systems were recalibrated for maximum efficiency. Every advantage, no matter how small, was identified and exploited. The colonists, now safely aboard the Perseverance, helped where they could. Marcus and his fellow miners knew the asteroid better than anyone. They identified weak points in the rock, places where precise strikes could break off massive chunks that would become additional hazards for the incoming fleet. Dr. Nira worked with Vox Prime to establish a telepathic communication network. If they were going to fight as one force, they needed to think as one force. And Chen planned. She studied every piece of data on the Karzul. Their tactics were aggressive but predictable. They relied on overwhelming force, not clever maneuvering. They expected their enemies to run or surrender. They did not expect resistance. That expectation would be their weakness. On the evening of the second day, as the asteroid reached its new position, Ensign Tora detected the first hyperspace disturbances. "They are coming, Commander. Multiple signatures, I count. 87 vessels." Chen stood from her captain's chair. "All hands to battle stations. Begin radio silence. And remember, we do not fire until my command." The Perseverance and the Vortex ships slid behind the asteroid, their engines cold, their power signatures minimal. In the darkness of space, they were invisible. The hyperspace disturbances intensified. 87 points of light appeared on the sensors, moving toward them at incredible speed. Then the Karzul fleet arrived. They came out of hyperspace in a perfect formation, dozens of warships bristling with weapons. They were expecting an easy victory, a helpless station waiting to be plundered. What they found was 50 million metric tons of rock hurtling directly at them. Chen watched the tactical display as chaos erupted in the Karzul fleet. Ships scattered in all directions, breaking formation to avoid the massive obstacle. Commanders shouted orders that contradicted each other. For a few precious seconds, the invading force became a disorganized mob. "Now," Chen said calmly, "all ships engage." The Perseverance surged forward, emerging from the asteroid's shadow. The Vortex ships followed, their weapons blazing with renewed power. They struck the scattered Karzul vessels before they could reform. The battle was fast and brutal. Chen directed her ship with precision, targeting command vessels and communication relays. Every destroyed ship made it harder for the Karzul to coordinate their response. The Vortex fought with the fury of a people reclaiming their heritage. The resonance stone had reminded them who they were, and they proved it now with every weapon discharge. But the Karzul were not helpless. They began to recover, reforming into smaller groups that could defend each other. Their firepower found targets. One of the Vortex ships took heavy damage. The Perseverance's shields flickered under sustained assault. "Commander," Vex reported, "we have destroyed 32 enemy vessels, but 55 remain and they are adapting." Chen studied the tactical display. The remaining Karzul were pulling back, regrouping for a coordinated assault. In a few minutes they would be organized again, and then the numbers would tell. Unless she changed the equation again. "Vex, how close are we to the asteroid's weak points, the ones Marcus identified?" "Less than 5 kilometers from the nearest one." "Target it, one concentrated strike from all ships, on my mark." The Vortex ships acknowledged the order. The Perseverance turned, bringing its weapons to bear on a specific section of the asteroid's surface. "Fire!" The combined firepower struck the weak point. For a moment, nothing happened. Then cracks began to spread across the asteroid's surface. A massive section of rock, perhaps a kilometer across, broke free and began to tumble away, directly toward the regrouping Karzul fleet. The enemy ships scrambled again, but this time some were too slow. The tumbling rock smashed through their formation, destroying 12 more vessels through sheer impact. "Maintain fire on weak points," Chen ordered. "Keep the debris flowing." The asteroid became a weapon after all, not through its mass but through its pieces. Each strike broke off more rock, sending it spinning toward the enemy. The Karzul could not reform, could not concentrate their firepower, could not do anything but dodge and die. Within an hour it was over. The surviving Karzul ships, perhaps 20 in number, fled into hyperspace. They had come expecting easy prey. They left broken and humiliated. Chen watched them go, then sank back into her captain's chair. Her hands were shaking. She had not noticed during the battle, but now the fear she had suppressed came flooding back. They had won. Against impossible odds they had won. Vox Prime's voice filled the bridge. "Human Commander Chen, the Vortex Collective owes you a debt that cannot be measured. You saved our people and helped us reclaim what was lost. History will remember this day." Chen found her voice. "History can remember whatever it wants. Right now, I am just glad everyone is alive." She looked at her crew. They were exhausted, wounded, some of them in tears, but they were alive. That was enough. The victory at Kepler Station, spread through the Galactic Union like wildfire. News networks ran the story for weeks. A single human commander, with one ship and 3 alien allies, had defeated a fleet of 87 enemy vessels. Military analysts called it impossible. Politicians called it a miracle. Chen knew it was neither. It was tactics, creative thinking, the willingness to look at a problem from angles no one else considered. But she let them call it what they wanted. What mattered was that 3,000 colonists were safe. The Vortak had reclaimed their heritage, and the Karzul had learned a lesson about underestimating their enemies. The Galactic Union awarded Chen its highest honors. The Vortak established formal diplomatic relations, the first step toward joining the Union as allies instead of outsiders. And somewhere in the vastness of space, stories began to spread. Stories about a human commander who could solve any problem, defeat any enemy, find any solution. Commander Sarah Chen, they said, had earned legendary status. Chen herself just smiled when she heard those stories. Legends were for others to tell. She was too busy preparing for the next mission, the next problem, the next impossible situation that would require her special talent. Because there would always be another problem to solve. And she would always be ready to solve it. 5 years had passed since the Battle of Kepler Station, and Commander Sarah Chen stood in the Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Union, surrounded by the most powerful beings in known space. Representatives from 100 species filled the chamber, their forms ranging from humanoid to bizarre configurations that defied easy description. Floating translator drones hummed above the crowd, converting speech into every language represented. Chen wore her formal dress uniform, the one decorated with so many medals that Vex had once joked she could deflect weapons fire with her chest. She did not feel like a legend. She felt like a woman who had spent too many nights reviewing mission reports and not enough time sleeping. But today was not about her comfort. Today was about something bigger. The Speaker of the Assembly, an ancient being known as the Architect, floated to the central podium. Its body was a collection of crystalline shapes that caught the light and scattered it into rainbows. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. The Assembly has gathered to address a matter of great importance. The threat designated as the Void Collective has been confirmed. They approach the borders of Union space, and their intentions appear hostile. A murmur ran through the chamber. The Void Collective, even the name sent chills down Chen's spine. In the 5 years since Kepler Station, she had faced many challenges: pirate fleets, rogue AI, political conspiracies that threatened to tear the Union apart. Each time she had found a solution. Each time her reputation had grown. But the Void Collective was different. They were not a species in the traditional sense. They were a phenomenon, a force that consumed entire star systems, stripping them of matter and energy, leaving nothing but empty space behind. No one knew where they came from. No one knew what they wanted. Every attempt to communicate had failed. Every fleet sent against them had been destroyed. They were, by all accounts, impossible to defeat. Chen had been studying them for months, ever since the first reports came in. She had analyzed every piece of data, every sensor reading, every survivor's account, and she had reached a conclusion that she knew the Assembly would not want to hear. The Architect continued, "We have called upon Commander Sarah Chen, the hero of Kepler Station, to present her analysis of the threat and her recommendations for defense." Chen walked to the podium. The eyes of 100 species watched her. She took a deep breath. "I will be direct," she said. "We cannot defeat the Void Collective through conventional warfare. Their technology is beyond our understanding. Their numbers are effectively infinite. They have no command structure to target, no supply lines to cut, no morale to break." The murmur grew louder. Representatives exchanged worried glances. "However," Chen continued, raising her voice, "I believe we can survive them, and I believe we can make them leave." The chamber fell silent. Chen activated the holographic display built into the podium. A map of Union space appeared, showing the approaching Void Collective as a dark stain spreading across the stars. "The Void Collective consumes matter and energy. That is their nature, but I have noticed something in my analysis. They do not consume everything equally. They target high-energy signatures first. Stars, power generators, active civilizations. They are drawn to energy like moths to flame." She zoomed in on one section of the map. Here, in the Tau Ceti sector, a dead star collapsed into a neutron star 50 years ago. The Void Collective passed within light years of that system and did not deviate toward it. The neutron star is extremely dense but generates relatively low amounts of detectable energy. Vox Prime, representing the Vortac Collective, spoke from the assembly floor. You suggest we reduce our energy signatures. Go dark. Partially, Chen said. But that alone would not work. 100 billion beings cannot simply stop using energy. What I propose is more complex. She changed the display to show a series of artificial constructs. We create decoys, massive energy generators that produce the signatures of populated worlds but contain nothing alive. We place them in a path leading away from Union space, toward the galactic rim. You want to bait them, the architect said. Yes, we give them what they want, but we give it to them somewhere else. At the same time, we reduce our actual energy signatures as much as possible, shift to low-power technologies, dim our stars with specialized filters, make Union space look unappealing compared to the feast we offer elsewhere. A representative from the Mythoran species, insected beings known for their mathematical minds, clicked its mandibles. The calculations required would be enormous, the coordination between species unprecedented. Yes, Chen agreed, but not impossible. I have been working with the Vortac Collective to develop the necessary algorithms. Their experience with large-scale coordination makes them ideal partners for this project. Vox Prime rose to speak. The Vortac have reviewed Commander Chen's plan. We believe it can work. More importantly, we believe it is our only realistic option. The debate continued for hours. Representatives raised objections, demanded clarifications, argued among themselves. Chen answered every question patiently, explaining her reasoning, addressing concerns, adapting her plan based on valid criticisms. By the time the session ended, she was exhausted, but she also felt something like hope. The vote would come tomorrow, but Chen already knew the outcome. The assembly had no better options. They would approve her plan because it was the only plan that offered any chance of survival. That night she stood on the observation deck of the Union Capital Station, looking out at the stars. Vex joined her, as he so often did. Quite a day, he said. Quite a year, Chen replied. 5 years since Kepler. Sometimes it feels like yesterday. Sometimes it feels like a lifetime ago. You have accomplished much in those 5 years. The Galactic Union is stronger because of you. The Vortac are valued members of the community. The Karzul have retreated to their own space. Your creative solutions have saved billions of lives. Chen smiled sadly. And now I am proposing the biggest gamble of all, baiting an unstoppable force with fake targets and hoping they take the bait. Is it truly a gamble if you have calculated the odds? All plans are gambles, Vex. You taught me that on one of our first missions together. The best we can do is improve our odds and commit fully to our choices. Vex was quiet for a moment. Do you remember what I said to you before Kepler Station, about building new paths? The Korathi saying, when the path is blocked, the clever warrior builds a new path. Yes, you have built many new paths since then, Commander, and now you are building the most important one of all, a path for our entire civilization to survive. Chen looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Void Collective was moving closer, consuming worlds, destroying everything in its path. But somewhere out there, a plan was taking shape. Decoys were being built. Civilizations were preparing to dim their lights and wait. And Sarah Chen was doing what she had always done, finding solutions where others saw only problems. The vote passed the next morning with an overwhelming majority. The Galactic Union began implementing Chen's plan immediately. Over the following months, the largest engineering project in galactic history took shape. Massive energy generators were constructed in uninhabited space, each one mimicking the signature of a populated world. They were placed in a trail leading away from Union space, toward the empty rim of the galaxy. At the same time, Union worlds began reducing their energy output. Stars were dimmed using massive orbital filters. Power plants were converted to low-emission designs. The busy communications networks that connected 100 species were reduced to carefully timed pulses that looked like natural cosmic phenomena. Chen oversaw every aspect of the project. She traveled from system to system, solving problems that arose, mediating disputes between species, keeping the massive enterprise on track. And always, she watched the approaching darkness. The Void Collective came closer. They consumed 3 systems on the edge of Union space. Each loss was a tragedy, populations that could not be evacuated in time. But then something changed. The collective paused. Their advance slowed. Sensor readings showed them shifting course, turning toward the energy signatures of the decoys. Chen was on the bridge of her new flagship, the GSS Redemption, when the confirmation came. "They are taking the bait," Tora reported, now a full lieutenant with a crew of her own. "The main body of the collective is moving toward the decoy trail." The bridge erupted in cheers. Chen allowed herself a small smile. But she knew it was too early to celebrate. The next phase would be even more difficult. "Maintain silent running," she ordered. "All Union worlds continue low-power protocols. We do not know how long they will follow the decoys. We need to stay invisible until they are well past our borders." The waiting began. Weeks passed, then months. The Void Collective continued following the decoy trail, consuming the energy generators one by one, moving further and further from Union space. A year after the plan began, the last of the collective crossed out of Union territory and disappeared into the empty reaches of the galactic rim. The threat was gone. Chen stood before the Grand Assembly once more, this time to receive the formal thanks of 100 species. The architect presented her with the Star of Unity, the highest honor the Galactic Union could bestow. "Commander Sarah Chen," the architect said, "you have done what no one believed possible. You saved our civilization not through force but through wisdom, through creative thinking, through understanding your enemy and finding a solution that harmed no one unnecessarily. You are truly legendary." Chen accepted the medal with grace. She gave a short speech thanking her crew, her allies, everyone who had contributed to the plan's success. But later, alone on the observation deck of the Redemption, she spoke more honestly to Vex. "I did not save anyone," she said. "I bought us time. The Void Collective is still out there. Someday they might return." "Perhaps," Vex agreed. "But that day is not today, and when that day comes, if it comes, we will face it together. You have taught the entire galaxy that no problem is truly unsolvable. That lesson will endure long after both of us are gone." Chen looked at the stars. They seemed brighter now, no longer dimmed by the filters of survival mode. Civilization was returning to normal. Children were being born who would never know how close they had come to extinction. She thought about her own daughter, Maya, now a young woman studying at the academy. Maya wanted to follow in her mother's footsteps, to solve problems and protect people. Chen had never been prouder. "You know what the funny thing is," she said to Vex. "What?" "Everyone calls me a legend now, the hero of Kepler Station, the savior of the Union, but I never wanted to be a legend. I just wanted to help people, to solve problems, to make things a little better than I found them." Vex made the sound that passed for laughter among Korathi. "That, my friend, is exactly why you are a legend. You never sought glory. You simply did what needed to be done, again and again, no matter how impossible the odds seemed." "The Korathi should have a saying about that." "We do," Vex said. "The greatest warriors are those who fight not for fame, but for the warriors who come after them." Chen smiled. "I like that." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Two old friends who had faced the impossible together and won. Commander Sarah Chen had earned legendary status through creative tactical problem-solving. But more than that, she had earned something that could not be measured in medals or honors. She had earned the trust of a galaxy. And she would spend the rest of her life making sure that trust was never misplaced. The stars burned bright in the endless dark, and somewhere in that vast expanse, a human commander who refused to accept impossible odds continued her watch. Because there would always be another problem to solve. And Sarah Chen would always be ready to solve it.